Hello, everybody. I hope you're having a good day. I'm feeling much better this morning. I got up this morning and made myself fancy coffee, which is in my Insta story, which is a sign that I'm feeling better. And the sun is out, and I actually have energy. So I'm going to roll with that today. And I am glad to sort of be back on the up and up. This is the last Sunday in April. So I have another cam poem for you as promised. And then after that, I think there's only 4 more poems to go in National Poetry Month. So we are very quickly coming to the end. The poem that I have for you today is called My Son Asked Me What Is Left, or an ode to the wrens who nest in my hanging plants. And this poem is very topical given the season because the wrens are out in full force. They're busy little birds. And they have been hanging out in my backyard near my feeders a lot, which is great because that means that there'll be a lot of fledgling wren babies in a couple of weeks. So I'll put some hanging plants out this year and we'll see if they sort of nest in there like they always have. My poem Fledgling, which I read to you a couple of days ago, or I guess a couple weeks ago now, is also inspired by these birds because they're the ones who hang out on my front porch and I watch them a lot from my picture window that's down there. So this is also, I guess, a newer poem. I wrote it probably about a year or so ago, but it just came out in this lovely publication called Parentheses. So they're on Instagram and on Twitter, and you should, Facebook, you should totally check them out because it's a really lovely publication. So this is my poem, My Son Asked Me What Is Left, or an ode to the wrens who nest in my hanging plants. My son asked me what is left while standing in a single hazy sunlit spot in our living room. And I think back to standing in that same room, holding this same boy in my arms. My son asked me what is left, and I remember standing in the wash of summer sunshine, cold from air conditioning, squinting past glass glare to watch tiny, fledgling wrens fall over and over from a potted fern, its leaves soft green feathers. Last summer, a peach begonia unfurled waxy buds, cloaking their nest so well I watered it twice before I discovered their soft brown heads. My son asks me what is left, and I think this summer I didn't hang any flowers, but my wrens found a house plant I hung at the far end of the porch, and just yesterday I saw the sharp tip of beak break the cover of shiny green. My son asked me what is left, and I think fledglings and flowers. My son asked me what is left, and I bow beneath his breath, holding one shoe. So that's my poem for today. And I actually have a whole series of these poems that I'm working on called My Son Asks Me, because my son asked me a lot of things. And it's amazing sort of what his mind does. Yesterday when I was putting him to bed, he had a 5-minute conversation with me about humanity. He's almost 5. He'll be 5 in a little less than a month. And I asked him at one point, do you know what humanity means? And he said no. And so we talked about that. But he kept saying, it's about your heart. You have to listen to your heart. And I am just constantly amazed sort of at his perceptions and kind of what he absorbs and takes in. And I've said this before, but I find him a fascinating lens to look through because of that, because there's no filter and there's really no self-editing. And because of that, there's not a lot of inhibition. And because I am who I am, and I always kind of go to the other side of things, I wonder sometimes what will happen when that shifts. because it does and it will. We all lose a part of that. And sometimes I think we spend much of our adult lives trying to get it back. Um, but I'm sure I'll write about it one way or the other. So I hope you're all well on this Sunday, and I'll speak to you soon.